Elliot Masters. That was a household name in high school. Okay, everyone knew Elliot Masters. He would come in like a Vineyard Vines, kind of paisley khaki, if you will. A nice day pant, and just a beautiful crisp blazer. When we were 15, going to geometry. And to sit here with him today, it just warms my heart. He is hilarious. Truly a voice that you only hear once every, 100 years, dare I say. And yeah, he's here to talk about movies, but he's just so much more than that. And if I could just be on a deserted island with him, sure, we would die in no less than 48 hours, but we would just have a rip-roaring time. In any case, go change your Brita filter and welcome to Open Wide. Elliot Masters, Elliot Masters. Okay, I don't even know where to begin because I've known you now for 15 years.
Yes.
But we went probably 12 years.
Without any kind of context.
Sure.
Yeah.
We went dry, we went rogue.
Oh, yeah.
So you and I met in high school.
Yes.
And I feel like, tell me if I'm doing us a disservice here, but we are pretty much the same, just a little tortured now, a little hairier.
Yes. Yes.
Some may say a little hairless in certain areas.
Well, yes.
But we really remained the same.
Yeah.
More or less.
I'd agree.
You were still wearing blazers and like a paisley button down.
It's all I got in the wardrobe.
It's all you got in the rotation.
Yeah.
And when you and I reconnected, I just was filled with so much joy because I know we weren't that close in high school, but I feel like we had this common bond.
Oh, yeah.
Over the darkness, if you will.
How seldom it is one finds a kindred spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when we caught up, I don't know, it put everything in context. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. You make me giggle.
Oh, stop.
So we have you here, it's just me.
The royal we. It's
Yep.
good. No, I love the royal we.
Capital W. We, again, have you on as a cinephile.
Yes.
But I feel like that truly just scratches the surface with you.
I have been told I defy
categories,
description.
description. Like, you are many things. But we're going to tap into the cinephile a little bit.
I can.
Because I feel like you are into such a rogue, kind of niche area of film, but you know a lot about it. Like, you will post these RIPs to actors and actresses who I have never even perceived. And you know their full history of film,
Yeah.
So I want to know, when you were a kid, what was the first movie that really stuck with you?
Okay, there was a live action Disney film from the 60s called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. And it was about a little Irish man who has a relationship with these leprechauns, and over the course of this thing, Sean Connery, who got his break doing this, and doesn't sound Irish remotely. I mean, he's very firmly Scottish. But I was obsessed with this movie as a kid because it had some really shockingly disturbing moments towards the end.
And it was a Disney movie.
It was a Disney movie, a live-action Disney movie. I remember showing it to my first grade class on St. Patrick's Day. I said,
Rough.
Leprechauns, right? Let's Show them this movie. Fucking loved it. And that was kind of the start of me being like, let me recommend a movie to you.
Which is really a treacherous kind of road with you.
Yes.
Because I feel like if I asked you that, you would pull a movie from the 40s that's like half black and white, half color. It's animation, live action. The main characters are mother, father, but also, brother, sister.
Oh, yeah.
And it would take me on a wild ride.
Well, I try, because I'm not going to recommend, like Agnes Varda to, somebody we went to high school with. I try to tailor it to the person.
Okay.
But yeah, if you're like one of my close friends, I'll be like, oh, well, you have to see Ladybug. And they'll be like, what the bull fucking hell is that? And I'll be like, it's a classic film from the 60s that nobody talks about anymore.
Dude. So I know you have your niche world, but I also know you're into horror.
I love horror films.
When did that become a thing for you? Did your parents allow you to see?
No, I lived a very protected childhood.
Okay.
I used to be so scared of walking through Blockbuster and past the horror section.
You couldn't even look.
I had to shield my eyes.
So then when did you get into that genre?
It was a fear fascination for me. I mean,
Okay.
and I think, it goes back to Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Because they had a depiction of like a banshee, which is like an Irish ghost of a dead woman. And the way they shot it was really striking for the period, and that fear fascination has always stuck with me. So I'm always looking for something that'll rekindle that feeling I had as a kid.
And is it one of those things where you need to get weirder and darker as time goes on?
Oh yes, it's very much like porn
Yep.
and anything else.
Yep.
You get darker and more
Yep.
disturbed as you go along. It's harder to hit those highs.
Right. You kind of need a new depravity with each film, scene, what have you.
But sometimes I really stand by this. I'm always impressed by films that push the envelope for their time. So, things that aren't necessarily extreme by today's standards, but are really shocking for the period.
Like what?
So there's a film I love immensely, and the people I've shown it to have been impressed by it, but are like, why would you ever show this to anybody? It's called Never Take Sweets from a Stranger.
Okay.
And it's a British film from the 60s, black and white, set in British Columbia. And it's about this family, and the daughter gets essentially molested by the richest man in town. And it turns into a court trial and this whole debacle, and things really get spun out of hand. And then
Is it
ends.
a horror movie?
It's made by a horror production company.
Okay.
But it's like very much played straight drama, but it's really disturbing.
Got it. Weird.
Weird. It's a weird, and weird is my genre. If it's weird,
yeah.
that's what I want to see.
Well, we talk about this too. When you repost stories or post on Instagram, your sense of humor is so beyond the stratosphere. The example that I just used 10 minutes ago, it will be a tomato on top of a slide being like, I need to call the IRS.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you know what? I get it. I get it.
It's like my humor is so turduckend now that it has to have like 17 layers to it,
Sure.
and it's all in jokes. Like I will post a picture of like SpongeBob doing something, and then it'll say fried beans.
Right.
And
right.
and that like nobody would find that funny, but I find it. I'm having trouble not laughing right now.
I was gonna say, I know that you're probably sitting in bed, tears,
Yeah.
looking at that.
Oh yeah.
So, was there a certain horror movie that you watch where there's a scene that still fucks with you? Like you can replay it and you're like, wow, that kind of altered my brain chemistry?
Yes, I have.
What was it?
Okay. There are so many, and so many of them aren't in horror films. Scenes that really shocked me or disturbed me. I remember the one that's immediately coming to mind for me is I saw David Lynch's Dune when I was in middle school, and I was really obsessed with Dune as a book.
Okay.
And David Lynch famously fucked with the book in a lot of ways, and one of the scenes he has in there is the villain of the book is this morbidly obese member of the aristocracy who has a predilection for little boys. And in the film, he has him float over to this guy and pull out this heart plug, so he starts bleeding all over himself. And this corpulent guy, just starts rubbing all the blood all over himself and fondling this guy. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop the movie right there, and I'm going to watch some SpongeBob.
Yeah. We always have the show.
The show
that we follow up with that can help us, lay our weary head to rest.
What would you say is yours?
It vacillates between SpongeBob and That's So Raven.
That's So Raven, the episode when she has them all, like, under sleep deprivation. Do you remember that episode?
Iconic. Where Chelsea and Orlando Brown and Eddie,
yeah,
they, like, are doing
They're doing like a psych
competition.
Yeah, and they're like stay up all like and the parents do it too. And I remember the mom was like finger. She just kept screaming finger, and I'm like, and that to me is comedy.
That's it.
That's it.
I will die on this hill. I said this on, I think it was 2 episodes ago. I think That's So Raven will continue to stand the test of time as just an excellent show.
It's on a tier all its own. As far as those Disney shows are concerned, I mean,
it's the best.
Vastly the best.
I agree. But with SpongeBob, I'll never forget, my ex and I watched just like a weird, it was trying to be like a Blair Witch Project. It was bad, but there were also scenes that kind of had some jump scares in it.
SpongeBob?
No.
I think he said SpongeBob Blair Witch Project. I'm like, sounds like New Testament bullshit.
Oh. No, we were watching a movie, and we were staying at a cabin in the woods. We're like, okay, we need to watch some SpongeBob to kind of get back down to this planet.
Right.
But the episode that came on was one of those weird ones where the creator would like have Patchy the pirate. It was like him as a human, and then it would flash between that and the cartoon, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
No. This will put me further into the nightmare. I need something clean cut, the sparkly Krabby Patties.
Yeah.
Right. I would say the scene that will fuck with me to this day, Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, yeah.
When they're putting the feeding tube in her nose.
Oh, yeah.
Now, ass to ass also fucks with me.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that feeding tubes went through the nose at that point. Yeah. And I remember I had to get up from the couch and I just like opened the fridge. I just needed to do something mundane. I wasn't looking for anything. I just needed to like come back into my body.
Oh, yeah.
Something about that movie just will continually.
Well, it's so Y2K. It's like a long music video.
Correct.
And the book is incredible. I wouldn't recommend the book to just anybody, but if you're willing to really go there, I mean, that's
also
one of the
spooky.
It's one of the best reads I've ever come through. Yeah, the other side. And my dad knew him, the writer Hubert Selby Jr. through AA. Okay. And he used to teach writing at USC.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Maybe when I'm in a very stable place in my life, I'll give that one a light read.
Yeah.
Maybe on a plane.
Yeah.
So I want to know what makes a movie good to you.
Oh, jeez.
Or maybe it's easier to ask what makes a movie bad for you.
Well, so I find that with going with horror, what makes a horror film bad, I think, is over-explaining. I think the best horror films are the ones that are very ambiguous. I live by this Latin aphorism, and I'm going to butcher it here, but I think it goes omne ignotum pro magnifico, which is all that is explained loses its magic.
Oh.
And I stand by that. David Lynch films in particular, everybody talks about David Lynch films, and they hold up because there is no explanation for what you're looking at.
So you need movies to make you think instead of put everything on the silver platter.
Yeah, I don't want to be spoon-fed.
Okay. So then what do you think about Jordan Peele films? Because the last one, Nope, I feel like really made you do the thinking almost to the point where I'm like, what? Are you just making this scene a scene to be weird, or am I fully missing the plot? Like, what did you think about those series?
So Jordan Peele is great. I think Jordan Peele is one of the few really popular filmmakers right now that actually deserves the acclaim that he
Praise,
gets.
yeah.
And each film has gotten more bold and more. I mean, he's just so comfortable now.
Sure.
And he's not going the easy route. He's not selling out, which I'm, mad respect for that. Nope was great. I found Nope fairly easy to understand, just because I'm
Perfect.
like he's doing. I'm sorry.
I'm like, it was so complex. Just the monkey scene.
I love the monkey
why?
stuff was great because it's all about. Okay, how am I going to say this and not sound like a fucking idiot?
Is it because the monkey? We're forcing the monkey to be. It's like something about performance and how we always need things to be like filmed and on.
I thought it was just like about what makes us human and what makes us animals, and about like this.
But they're chasing an alien.
They're chasing an alien. I know, but didn't he say he got his inspiration from biblical angels?
Missed that part.
Yeah.
Missed that.
I think it's all about it's about taming the beast.
Okay.
That's what I thought it was about, because it feels like Jaws. The whole movie feels like Jaws.
I need you to sit next to me with every film that I watch, because without fail, when a movie ends, I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Because I feel like I always kind of leave my body a little bit in a movie, and it's right around the area where you really get to know some character or some plot point.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need you to kind of hold my hand while walking through.
Well, if you don't mind a moist hand.
Sure,
you're,
a clammy.
Clammy, just sopping wet hand.
Sure.
I go to the Apple store and I point at something and it's just billowing off of me.
So do you think movies have gotten worse or better over time?
I think generally there are great movies out of every decade, but they're not always the movies that everybody sees. I'm a purist. My favorite decades are the 60s and the 70s.
Okay.
I love
That's your
films.
sweet spot.
That's my sweet spot.
Okay.
But I find films all the time that I love in that were made even in the repressive periods of the 40s and the 50s.
Okay.
And
Jesus Christ.
I found films that are excellent in the godless 90s and the 2000s, the Bush administration. Surprisingly, some good films under that.
But what about
that era.
now?
Now, we had a really great year last year, I think.
Okay.
I think last year was a great year for movies.
Sure.
We had Killers of the Flower Moon. The Holdovers was amazing, I thought.
In ways, you could play. Who was that? Steve Buscemi. Who played in the Holdovers?
Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yep.
People say I have like a voice that I don when
Yep.
I'm acting.
You don't have a lazy eye, though.
I don't have a lazy eye.
Yeah.
Yet.
Sure.
I may induce that just to get work.
Okay. Okay.
I hope. Well, I went to a restaurant in Boston and I frequented it. Every year I'd go a couple times, and I got the same waiter every time, and he had a lazy eye, and it took every ounce of self-control to not, just go off with it. I felt so fucking bad, but I mean, I tipped him like 40%.
You had
so,
to. You had to.
Yeah.
When I studied abroad, humble brag, I went with a friend, and one of our teachers had a very strong lazy eye.
Uh-huh.
And in the first class that we had, we went around and introduced ourselves, where we're from, blah, 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 but we were kind of in different rows. And so the teacher, it was my friend's turn to introduce herself, and she was just silent. And so non-threateningly, my friend was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were looking at me." Because one was just in another country, in another zip code. Brutal. I mean, the oxygen was just sucked out of the room.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Yep.
Oh, that's brutal.
Brutal. Okay, to go back to that question, I think comedies have gotten progressively worse over time. I will say that.
I think comedy is dead. I think comedy is dead, and I think horror is fast on its heels.
Really?
I think it's because we've gotten so inbred now with what we find funny and what we find scary that the scariest things you'll find now are like 3-second videos on YouTube or
Of like a beheading?
Of like, well, yeah. I mean, everybody's desensitized to violence. Violence
Sure.
doesn't scare anybody anymore.
Right.
You've got to get so fucking nasty to have any kind of effect on anybody. And the same with humor.
Right. Humor, I just feel like, I understand there are probably things we can't, I don't know, like would The Hangover exist now if it came out for the first time? I don't know.
It could exist as a horror film. I think all the comedies could be horror films, and all the horror films could be comedies. And I think that's, if you reframe it like that,
okay,
you might have a better time.
Then that's something. So you said, okay, so 60s and 70s is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Okay. And anything before that, is it a little too, Darlene, where's the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, there are films from those years that will push the envelope, and I really enjoy those films that work around the censorship of the period.
Okay.
But those are few and far between.
Got it.
Most of the time, you're watching films with everybody's wearing a fucking hat, and
don't even get me started on bangs. I am a new girl stand far,
Yeah.
like to the ends of the earth. I will stand by. You cannot have two main characters with bangs.
I subscribe to that.
Strong cut bangs.
Yeah.
You get one bang. You can get maybe one bang and a curtain bang. Two bangs? Please. Overzealous.
Can't be done.
No. Is there another country's films that you like?
Yeah. So I'm really partial to. Again, I really love Japanese film from the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
I don't. A hot take of mine is that I struggle with the French. The French. Okay. I struggle with the French, especially the new wave. Outside of like Agnes Varda, who I think is spectacular. She's great, but I don't love films of that period from France for the most part. I think part of it is because they've become so cliched and sort of mocked now.
Okay.
The poeticism of the dialogue in particular drives me up the fucking wall.
Okay.
I hate it. I hate it.
Okay, so the French is not your jam.
French since 2000.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
But
everything after
everything before. I mean, unless it's like a really hard genre film, I struggle.
Okay. What about Korean?
Korean films are insane. I love Korean films.
Okay.
Yeah. Did
you see the Saw franchise?
I've watched a couple of those.
French and Korean movies.
Yeah.
Have you seen Saw?
Yeah,
You've seen a few.
I saw Saw.
Okay. That, I feel like, so the first one, exquisite. There's a
Great.
storyline. It's dark. It's spooky. It's gross.
What a twist.
But then I have seen, I think, all the way up to like 8. I mean, I don't know how many there are, but I saw far too many.
Yeah.
And they became so just gross. There was no story.
Yeah, it's just like let's
put a key in someone's eyeball and then they have to cut it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, jump into a pool of dirty needles. Yeah,
yes!
that was kind of where I drew the line.
Yes. Okay, but then you, dare I say, juxtapose with Ari Aster films.
Yes.
Which are so artful, but also harrowing.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you rank Hereditary, Midsommar, and Beau is Afraid?
Absolutely. It's
Kill,
Beau
Fuck,
is
Marry,
Afraid.
number 1.
Is my favorite.
Okay.
And there's one that's a comedy that's a horror film, and a horror film that's a comedy.
Haven't watched it yet because I feel like it's gonna fuck with the noggin a bit.
Oh, I think you're gonna love it. I think you're gonna be laughing through it. I thought it was. I thought I was dying the whole way through it. I thought it was so funny. One of my favorite films from last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hands down. I absolutely adored that thing, and the cast is spectacular.
Okay, I need to do it.
Yeah, I highly recommend
I
it.
think it was around the time of Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Right.
And I famously had an anxiety attack in the mall parking lot after that. So I was like, I can't do the dream sequence. Like, it's
Oh,
just...
but what an incredible double that would be to watch those two films back to back.
I'd be institutionalized. I would have a shaved head.
I'm in and
a
out,
straight
so
jacket.
you're,
Sure,
yeah,
sure. Okay, then can I guess Midsummer and then Hereditary?
I go back and forth because Midsummer, the best part of Midsummer for me is that first 10 minutes. I think that's some of the best filmmaking I've seen in a long time.
Sure.
When she kills her family with the asphyxiation and the gas and everything, I thought that was spectacular.
You didn't like the pubes in the glass of wine?
I really like The Wicker Man, so I've done the folk horror bit.
Got it.
None of the Norwegian actors really stood out to me, and I really wanted a couple more really weird guys in that movie, but
to take it home.
To take it home for me,
Yep.
yeah, I really needed that. But Hereditary loses me in that last 5 minutes because it's just Rosemary's Baby.
The thing is, I made the mistake of watching that movie in the daylight, so I could not take it seriously.
Right? How could you?
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. I want you to make your dream ensemble cast, dead or alive.
Okay.
Maybe 6 people.
6 people.
6 people.
Okay.
It can be odd, but it can just be your dream collaboration.
Okay. I've done this shit.
You've done it.
Oh yeah.
So this is locked and loaded.
This is how obsessive and depraved I am that
love it.
I'll sit there and I'll fantasy football movies.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, on rule of thumb, I like to have Donald Pleasance in any movie. And he was in all the Halloween movies as the guy that's trying to kill him.
Okay.
Dr. Lecter.
Okay.
Not Dr. Lecter. Dr. Loomis.
Perfect. So he's one.
Donald Pleasance. Jessica Harper, who was the lead in the original Suspiria. Jack McGowan. Who else? Jacqueline Bisset.
Have yet to recognize one of these names, but absolutely. I'm like Whoopi Goldberg. Perfect.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Throw her in there.
Whoopi Goldberg would be great.
2 more.
2 more. I need some leading men types. For shits and giggles, Sean Connery, and a young guy for that period would be.
What can be dead or alive? It can be
dead or
anyone.
alive. I know. But I always this is how fucked I am, is that I'm like, this is something that could have been made. I'm trying to think about, could this have possibly existed?
Sure. No, I'm like, throw in Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Sure, why not? Jamie Lee Curtis.
Throw her in.
Yeah.
I think in our next lifetime, we can play around with that. We can get some AI. We can get, and just really bring
I'm going to get lost.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a friend of a friend, stay with me, who, do you know the term oeuvre?
Yeah.
Like
oeuvre.
their work?
Body of work.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
This friend of a friend believes that of any actor or actress's oeuvre, by far, Vin Diesel is the best. And he will die on that hill. Do you have someone like that? That maybe is like expected, or maybe someone like a Vin Diesel.
Yeah, right. That's really hard for me to wrap my head around, anybody thinking that Vin Diesel has the best filmography.
He has bullet points. He has the thesis to back it up. It's crazy, but
it's family.
It's family. Does someone stick out for you for that?
Okay, as far as actors are concerned, because it wouldn't be Donald Pleasance, because most of the films he's in are pure shit.
It's tough.
It is tough.
It's tough.
It's tough. An actor who's body of work, his oeuvre, is worthy of praise in that way, because everybody's got some stinkers.
But apparently Vin Diesel doesn't.
Apparently Vin Diesel does not. I don't think I'll want to get into a conversation with that person about that, because I'd need to talk to my insurance agent beforehand.
We can come back to it if it's something.
Yeah, it's going to come to me tonight at like 3 a.m.
I'll edit it back
call
in.
You. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do word association. You know this.
Yeah.
Are you ready? I'm going to say a word. It's the first thing that comes to your mind.
Jesus. Okay.
Ready?
Sure.
Because I know your responses are just going to take us down a weird path.
Oh, good.
Ingenue.
Catherine Deneuve.
Montage.
Editing.
Auteur.
John Huston.
Fiddlesticks.
Me.
In ways, you are fiddlesticks.
Yeah.
If we really get down to brass tacks.
Fiddlesticks. Yeah.
So, you write.
Yeah.
You're a good writer.
Well,
I don't care what you say.
Okay.
What's the genre? Also, what's the dream project?
Well, I love to I come up with ideas pretty easily. It's just seeing them through to completion. I'm working on stuff right now. I've got a couple of things cooking that I'm kind of excited about. Something more autobiographical. And I generally roll my eyes at content like that. But a couple of my favorite films have to do, like all-time favorite films have to do with addiction and mostly alcoholism and the horrors of alcoholism.
Okay.
And so I'm working on something right now that's very much about growing up with that.
Because that was your experience.
That was my experience,
okay.
yeah, with my dad. And so I'm working on something like that. But I think a dream project of mine, my dad was a writer, and he had written a novella about his experience in Laclede, Missouri in the 50s. And it was the nastiest, most grotesque story I'd come across, and I was like, okay, I've got to make this into a film or a play or something. So that's the dream, is to adapt my dad's novella.
Oh, I love that. Because your dad is no longer with us, right?
R.I.P., yeah.
He was born in the 40s?
He was born in the 40s.
Damn.
Old parents. And
strong
that
sperm.
Is how, well,
Virile.
You could argue that I've inherited some unusual traits and characteristics. I'm a little off.
But it makes you you.
Well, I'm happy to be me.
When you and I have talked about your experience with that growing up with your dad,
right.
I was always shocked to find that you don't really have any anger. You're not an angry guy. You tend to have some sadness. Okay, that is inspiring.
Yeah.
How does that play into the work that you create? Do you ever wish you had more anger to, like, fuel these projects of the fuck yous? Or, I mean, what a weird question to ask, because I wish I didn't have so much fucking feminine rage just deep inside my liver and loins. But I guess I'm just curious, like, I can understand how the sadness plays into the work that you create, but where do you get the zest? Where do you get the kick?
Well, it's funny you say that, and just very quickly, I want to make note: liver and loin is a wonderful alliteration.
Thank you so much.
That's excellent. So thank you.
We should make it like a little tiny poet book.
I think so. We should
like
a little coffee table book. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we could do that.
It'll be like, the cat drives down the seeds. My name is Fred.
My name is
You know
Fred.
what I mean?
The tomato sits on the slide and calls the IRS. Yes. Yeah. No, I think we could really, we've got something here. We're cooking.
Absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to take
No,
away.
No, that was good. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of anger when I was a kid, but I was in therapy since I was 6. So I've had a place to process. But a lot of the film work I was making when I was in high school and really dealing with that in a more significant way, a lot of the work I did was really violent and angry. And I think I processed a great deal of what I was going through my work.
That's
and
amazing.
the films that I made as a kid really helped me process. My therapist when I was in middle school was like, your obsession with Dracula is all to do with your dad.
No.
And I'm like,
Can we have
shit.
one thing?
Can I have one thing that isn't fucked rotten? Nope.
Damn.
Yeah. He's like, well, your dad's a heroin addict, and you're obsessed with this because it's an allegory for that. And I'm
Sure.
like, fuck you and me.
Sure. And were your parents supportive of you in that?
Absolutely. My parents were both creative people,
Okay.
and they really encouraged me to make movies and to act and to do stuff. I mean, goodness knows they paid through the nose for me to go to school for acting and rolling around on the floor and moaning for 3 hours.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
They've definitely been day one ground floor.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Jump.
Yeah.
Live, laugh, love. If I had to guess, felt like an old man while you were a child.
Oh my, yes.
Like, when you were a kid, did you, I don't know, struggle with not feeling like a child?
I mean, I
feel like you had the whimsy. You still
had whimsy. I had some whimsy.
Yeah.
It was, night and day. I'd be happy at school, go home, and I'd have a much harder time.
Sure.
But I really, I think it started to show itself more as I got older, and that's just trauma. I
Capital
think
T, baby.
Capital T, Rama, and it was harder in like middle school for me and high school too, until I started to like really find my people.
Okay.
Yeah,
high school's weird for that because your friends are really what makes the most sense for you in a geographic area.
Yeah,
so you're just kind of like, okay, this makes sense, and then it's not until you really go to college or become an adult where you're like, oh my god, I get to choose the people that resonate with me.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure in high school, I mean, we grew up in a town that's it's where Laguna Beach was filmed. You know what I mean? So I'm sure there was some, I don't know. I can understand how that might have been difficult for you.
It was and it wasn't, because I think being an old soul, I sort of became a school mascot in a lot of ways. And I think I wouldn't say beloved, but I think I was.
You were.
I guess you could say that. I felt more like I was just like, I was so radically just doing my own thing that they were like, okay, there was at least a bit of respect there,
Yeah.
a tipping of the hat, if you will.
That's the thing, because you were so unapologetically yourself. You were like, yeah, I'm going to show up in a 3-piece suit to geometry,
Yeah.
eat my ass.
Yeah.
And you had this like really refreshing, I don't know, just like levity to it. You never took yourself so seriously.
I tried not to.
No.
And goodness knows, the bullying at CDM was light. And I'm a pragmatic, practical person. I didn't just start coming to school in suits. I prepared people for it. I did it in sections. I eased you all into it. I said, okay, today I'll start wearing khakis and sweaters and polos,
Right.
and you bring in the jackets, and then by the time I was a senior, it was suits every day.
And that's okay. And you look damn good.
Well,
I was in sweats and like a fucking training bra, so none of it was good. Oh my god. Okay, I'm going to pivot a little bit.
Sure.
We're going to pretend like we're creating a dating profile for you.
Great.
But we can only use 3 words to describe you.
Okay.
What are they?
I don't want to open with this one, but the first thing that came to mind is wet.
Wet?
I'm so sweaty.
All the time.
You've got to know that going in.
Sure.
Like I said, I'm a pragmatic, practical person. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I also want to be mindful.
Right. The wet hands.
Wet hands.
If you share a bed, it's going to be just a little moist.
There won't be any sharing of the bed.
No.
There will be separate bedrooms.
Thank
We've
you so
talked
much.
about this.
Yep.
Separate bedrooms.
I think that's the key to a happy marriage.
I think so too.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wet.
Wet. I mean, if I could give you like a phrase that's 3 words long.
Give it to me.
Man of leisure.
A man of leisure. That's you. That's you. You love your pate.
I do.
You love your Ritz-Carlton Maui.
I do.
You love some shade, some AC.
Oh,
a
yes.
cool breeze. Maybe a martini.
Absolutely.
That's
martini.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
But
you're not going to be found like hiking the mountains of Peru.
I'll do a hike if that's what somebody wants to do.
Okay.
If I'm
You're trying to be favorable.
If I'm trying to fuck somebody, I'll go on a hike. You're not going to like me by the end of the hike, but I'll go with you on the hike.
You'll be wet.
You will get the ick. But yeah, I'll go on the yeah, sure.
Wait, what makes you say they'll get the ick?
Because I'll probably be complaining the whole fucking time. I'll be like, this is a goddamn disgrace. I should be like, all I need now is a very large mallet, like just shit
Too
like
much
that.
dust.
Who does you do this for fun?
Oh, Christ. Okay, we're going to say man of leisure.
Sure.
Wet.
Wet.
Hey, let's hit us with one more.
One more.
That really encapsulates who you are.
Nautical.
Nautical. Yeah. Yeah, you could be found on a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would never own a boat,
Sure.
but I'd love to have friends who own very
That's
large
the key.
boats.
That's the key. Get the friend with the vacation home.
Yeah.
Get
Right.
the friend with the kid so that you can touch the kid. Okay, time out. Time out. Time out.
What the
Run it back. Run it back.
You can touch the kid.
Hold on. Hold on. Elliot. So you can play with the... Now that sounds weird. We're gonna cut that dry. We're gonna just leave that where that needs to go.
That was pretty funny, though. That was
Bad.
really good.
Bad. So I end each episode with the same question.
Yes.
And it is as follows. What do you wish more people understood about you?
I guess that, yeah, I may present as a light, jovial, avuncular sort of character, but we all have shit in our lives, and it certainly hasn't been easy. That it's worth it to be kind. I'd like people to know that
Goes a long way.
it goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You in ways are a turducken. You have your many layers.
Many layers.
Many flavors.
A chicken, a duck, and a turkey.
Yep. Elliot, you are the light of my life. I just want to say thank you. And let's just continue to giggle.
Let's please do.